Surface at Microsoft's future. Decoded. Video, Microsoft Surface Book 2. First look. Peter Kyriacou was the lead program manager for Microsoft's original Surface Pro tablet and now heads up the program management team for all Surface devices. Prior to joining Microsoft, he was a senior program manager at Sonos. ZDNet caught up with Kyriacou at Microsoft's future Decoded event in London to delve into the decision-making behind the devices. Are you intimately involved in the planning and execution of new Surface products? Yes, we do the roadmap, and then when the program kicks off we help scope the project and manage the schedule. Surface Pro 1 in 2013 was my first product, and since then I've been working on the Pro line and the Book line. I still have an original Surface Pro, and it runs great, but we've done a lot in 5 years. 5 years ago, if you asked a creative professional what mobile devices they wanted, they'd probably choose Apple, MacBook Pro and maybe an iPad too, without hesitation. Now Microsoft Surface products are serious contenders in this market. What do you see as the key factors driving this change? Peter Kyriacou is GM for Program Management at Microsoft. Let me give you an example. When we worked on the Surface Pro 1 we had a Wacom pen and were running Photoshop. So we went to Adobe and said we're making this device and we want Photoshop to look great, and then we tweaked basic things with them, like how icons show up, so that people can use a pen on a small device. Look how far we've come. Now it's intuitive. People pick up a Surface, log into Creative Suite or Office, and can use a pen super easy. That's the trajectory we want to continue. How do we make our hardware a stage for software? Ideally, we want the hardware to fade into the background and the software to come to life, and, more importantly, for the user to get into the flow. The dial is the latest example of integration between pen and touch. We've just announced further integration with Photoshop, which brings shortcuts to your non-dominant hand, so you can be in there painting with a brush and change the brush size or color without having to break your flow to go to a menu. Is part of the problem for Apple the bifurcation of the OS experience, with pen and touch on iOS, but not on macOS? It's hard to knock Apple, because they're a great company and they make great products, but we started early on with Windows 7 to make touch part of the main OS, and you get to a place where you're not having to think what device you're on or what mode you're going to use. Touch is the start, but there's also great keyboard and mouse, and trackpad has been another main focus for us as well. Even the ability to attach a keyboard to a tablet. When we started off with the Surface RT and Surface Pro, the focus was how do we make someone more productive on the device. So, it's typing experience, trackpad experience, pen, and leaning into that in the future. How do you make sure voice is ubiquitous, independent of the machine that you're on? The Surface business is now generating around $1 billion in revenue per quarter. Are there any market segments where the devices have seen particular traction? There's a pretty good distribution between consumer and commercial, and we're seeing growth in the commercial area, especially as you lean into the modern workplace and how people are being productive on their devices. Creatives have definitely been our lead, but you see the devices start to trickle across into the C-suite and then to employees across the board. We have data that shows that as the new generation of millennials join companies, the device you give them matters to them, and we've noticed that they feel more important and gratified when they get a Surface device. The new Surface Book 2 comes in 13-inch and 15-inch models and delivers up to 17 hours of battery life, according to Microsoft. You talked about making the hardware fade into the background, hiding the nuts and bolts of the design as much as possible. But there must be a trade-off in terms of accessibility and repairability. The Affixa teardown reports and scores for Surface devices are pretty critical in this respect. For example, when someone is shopping for a laptop, we look at the trade-offs they typically have to make. With Surface Book 2, for example, we looked at the axes that are important to the customer and tried to maximize every one of those along axes such as battery life, performance, screen size and pixel density, without adding extra weight. We're really proud of the design decisions we made in terms of maximizing all those things. Over the years, various issues have arisen with Surface devices: cooling, fan noise, Wi-Fi connectivity, sleep-wake and so on. Presumably it's a constant battle to fight all of the trade-offs involved. With latest Surface